Now we're fighting too on so many fronts. We all know that this government wants to hold back wages and even make us poorer than we are already. And some of the workers that really deserve a pay rise are our fantastic nurses, our care workers, our doctors, the people who work in our NHS that's seen us, that's looked after us and protected us throughout this COVID pandemic at great risk to themselves. Many have actually fallen to this disease whilst helping others to recover from it. But what's the government said? Oh, they were prepared to clap for the nurses, weren't they? But when it comes to treating them properly and giving them the pay rise they deserve, they told them, you're only getting 1%, and we're not having it. It's not on.
Protesting has given us gay rights, women's rights and black rights. Recently, a fellow nurse and NHS pay campaigner, Karen Reisman in Manchester, was fined £10,000 for standing up and fighting for the health service we work in. The fine was disproportionate to the risk of the protest. We've seen women gathered at the Sarah Everard Vigil on Clapham Common, which was peaceful until the police turned it violent. The bill is a direct and deliberate attack on society speaking out and organising themselves to fight against injustice at a time where our voices need to be heard more than ever. We have a democratic right to stand up and protest.
Now, it's not just public sector workers that are under the cosh. There's some terrible things happening right across the private sector at the moment, with bosses trying to screw wages down, not just give them a pay freeze, but actually cut their terms and conditions. We're seeing fire and rehire spreading across the private sector. We've seen the GMB gas workers fighting for weeks against being sacked and taken on worse terms and conditions. We've seen bus workers in Manchester working for the Go Ahead Group. 9 weeks on strike against fire and rehire, taking them on worse terms and conditions. And we're seeing bus companies across the country telling the union, we want to cut your pay in order to increase our profits. I've heard just recently, First Group, who I used to work for, is now forcing the workers to accept cuts in their conditions, but they're balloting next week, and I'm told they're expecting a massive rejection of those proposals.
Fire and rehire seems to be the product of choice of employers as we come out of COVID. They look to return to profits and give shareholders premiums again. The easiest way of doing it is to attack workers' terms and conditions. If you don't understand fire and rehire, basically what happens is on a Friday you're sacked on your current terms and conditions that we fought for years to achieve. You're sacked and reinstated on Monday morning on less pay, less holidays, sickness pay agreements. It even goes down the line as far as bereavement leave. These companies are morally bankrupt when it comes to workers. It's all about profit and it's all about shareholders. Now, Martin's right what he said. In Manchester we've got people on strike. Go Ahead took over the First Group in Manchester, sacked everybody and reinstated them on new contracts and reduced everything. So to the credit of Andy Burnham in Manchester, he's already gone down the road of franchising and taking the buses back into public ownership. What he's also said is that any company that goes down the road of fire and rehire will not be allowed to bid for franchises in the future. Now what we've got in South Yorkshire is our mayor, Dan Jarvis. Fantastic. Now he's got a decision to make. By June he's got to decide whether to take public transport back into the public ownership and run it as a public service and not allow the big companies to do what they've been doing to people, putting up fares, reducing services and isolating communities. And he's dithering and he's delaying and he's talking about getting back into bed with the companies and going down the road of quality contracts. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Jarvis. You need to grow a pair as quick as you can and take public transport back into public ownership in South Yorkshire and protect our members from fire and rehire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Another round of applause for Martin, please. Martin is absolutely right. Our country has never been so divided. We are fighting on different fronts. Black Lives Matter. My message cannot be easier and clearer. The Western government needs to stop killing my people. When you look across Africa, what is currently happening in Chad, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in East Africa, enough is enough. Take your knee out of my neck. That's very important. We recently had in this country what we call a commission for race and ethnic disparity led by Dr. Tony Sidwell. My message to Sidwell is quite clear. What Sidwell needs to do is have a brain scan. He got to go and check his brain because this country is racist. We know that. Refugee and asylum seekers are welcome here, and particularly here in Sheffield. We have always welcomed people here. It is fundamental for us to have our freedom. We got the right to protest. We got the right to come together to discuss and fight against racism. Then the police bill, let's kill the bill. When a problem is complex, what is needed is a complete revolutionary solution to actually solve that issue. Then what I want from you, comrade, is to be revolutionary in your approach. We cannot just be dormant anymore. We need to get out and fight the bill. My plea to you all is twofold. We need to collaborate. We need to unite. We need to come together to discuss our issues. Our community is great, and this country, we need to be great as well. Then we need to sit down and discuss. Racism is extremely bad and is affecting many people across different communities. We need to stop racism. Black Lives Matter.
I'm a member of Sheffield Community Contact Tracers, which was a group of retired doctors and retired public health officials which was set up last April. They were absolutely horrified that this government had stopped testing and had stopped contact tracing in the wave of a pandemic that had been predicted. It wasn't that it came up suddenly. They've been preparing for it. Doctors know pandemics come, infectious diseases come, and there should be proper preparation for it. The government wanted to hand out contracts, as Martin said, to their private business friends and colleagues. This is absolutely shocking, because what local authorities do best, they know their communities, and if they are properly resourced, if they are properly funded, they can carry out a multitude of services. But as we know, in the last 30 years, and absolutely accelerated over the last 10 years of austerity, public services have been cut, stripped back, local councils have been stripped of their powers, and we're left with a centralised power capitalist system that is ruining our country, ruining our health, ruining our lives. But we will not be conquered by this. We will rally back and we will resist. You look around the world, other countries where there's been planned economies, where money and funding is put into local authorities, local government, public services, the outbreak of COVID has not wreaked such havoc amongst these communities. If you look at China, Vietnam, New Zealand, Kerala in India, Cuba, proper measures were brought into action, and they have had very low cases per million of population and very few deaths. And I had a young woman, a Chinese woman, who was staying with me in my house as a lodger up until March the 22nd, a day before lockdown. Her parents said, come back to China. I can't have you dying in the UK, because they foresaw what might happen in this country. National lockdowns are a sign of failure. You wouldn't believe it. Serco, as Martin said, has had 37 billion pounds to run the test and trace system. It hasn't worked. They haven't managed to contact trace people. They haven't managed to support people. And one of the reasons why people don't go and get tested and don't isolate, we can't go finger wagging and saying people aren't abiding by the rules. People cannot afford to abide by the rules because this bloody government, we've got the lowest sick pay, and many people, if they're not earning their miserable £120 a week, don't even qualify for sick pay. So would you go and get tested if you thought you were going to be told to isolate with no financial support? No, of course you wouldn't. Whose fault is it? The government's fault. But I would ask you, as a very immediate action to take, on the 17th of May, they are looking to possibly renew Serco's contract. They have to be given a fortnight's notice. A fortnight's notice takes that to the 3rd of May. I would ask you to go onto the We Own It site, you know, the campaign group that campaigns for public services, and Zero COVID UK to find the various letters that you can send to your MPs or lobby your MPs or lobby your councillors. Director of Public Health, Greg Fowle, Director of Public Health, get him to contact Matt Hancock and your leader of the council to tell them they must not renew the Serco contract. We want services back in a public domain, local authorities, local accountability, local control. Solidarity.
return home, to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps.
As you sleep and count the stars, think of others.
Kill them, Bill!
You have no bed to sleep.
Kill them all!
to just say a few thank yous and then we will disperse very calmly and quietly. Massive thanks to the Trades Council for partnering up with us at Sheffield Against the Policing Bill today. I hope everyone learned something. Happy International Workers' Day, everybody.